Today on Studio Santa Clarita, a community leader comes back thankful from tragedy. Studio Santa Clarita starts now. Welcome to Studio Santa Clarita. I'm Alicia Humphreys. A Bouquet Canyon man suffers a tragic accident. Let's see how his community embraces him.
My name is Myles McNamara, and I'm the owner of Comfort Keepers In-Home Care.
3 months ago, something kind of tragic happened. Would you please tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a tad life-altering. We have horse property, so we have a tractor on the property that we use for chores and dragging the arenas and things like that. And I had moved it to a different part of the property. As I'm walking away, I looked over and realized I hadn't put the scoop down all the way. So I walked back over next to the tractor, reached over the tractor to just give me some power to drop the scoop, but I went one click too far. And so it lurched forward and actually started, because it was in gear, and threw me to the ground, and from toe to head, just took its time running me over.
I assume that at this moment you were alone on the property. Nobody knew that you were there.
Correct. Then I was down below alone, yeah. There were people up at the house. I knew I was in trouble. My biggest goal, as I heard bones crushing, was to have it miss my head as the tire's coming up. So, but it broke my right ankle, where I have pins and screws. It broke my left femur, my left hip, my ribs, my scapula, and I had crush injuries to my thigh and my abdomen. And no one ever wants their hip to break, but that sort of was what allowed me to miss my head, is the tire's coming up and I'm trying to muscle it a little bit. As my hip broke, it allowed my torso to kind of turn a little bit, which allowed the tire to go up and just miss my head.
That was a strategy.
Yeah, from at the moment it started, as I saw the tire coming, my goal was to have it miss my head. I mean, so I was sort of present in the moment to know I was in trouble, but I didn't want my head to be ran over.
So how do you get out of that situation? What happened?
How do I get out of it?
You're in the situation, what happens? The tractor runs you over and you're just laying there.
Well, fortunately, I had my cell phone in my pocket, and it didn't get crushed. So my daughter was up at the house, so I rather than call 911 myself, because I didn't know if I was going to pass out or not, I called her and said, "You need to come down, call 911. I've been hurt." So she did. She amazingly kept her cool, came down, called 911, kind of held and helped me while the paramedics were on the way until they got there. So yeah, she was amazing.
When something that traumatic happens to your body and you are awake, is your adrenaline just taking over? You're in shock? Is it horribly painful in that moment? It's
interesting. I felt no pain at all. I mean, I felt the pressure, I felt the tire, but I didn't feel any pain whatsoever. Until the paramedics got there and tried to straighten me out to put me on the board. Then I'm like, okay, time out, that I feel that. But yeah, the body does go into shock. The body's an amazing thing. I didn't feel any pain at the time. It was really kind of interesting as I think back on it. You know, that it just kind of happened. I felt the pressure, but no extreme pain.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was.
So you are rushed to the hospital.
Henry Mayo Hospital. So yeah, I went in through the ER and spent a month there.
An entire month?
An entire month. Well, there were a lot of ups and downs. I mean, I went in for emergency surgery to start, where they put my ankle and my femur and my hip back together. I have a titanium rod in the hip and down the femur, screws and plates in the ankle. That went pretty well. You can't really do much for broken ribs and scapulas and such. Those have to take their own course. But I was there for a few days, and then I developed internal bleeding. And so they had to go back in and put a chest tube in. Blood was forming in the lungs, and my hemoglobin was dropping, and I was crashing pretty hard. So they had to get in there and stop the bleeding, put a chest tube in, and then I think they gave me like 5 pints of blood over the next couple days to stabilize me. And yeah, it was quite the journey. But I lost 26 pounds in the hospital, so I'm still about 20 pounds under what I was before the accident. But yeah, they're surprised that I survived, and the fact that I'm told I'm not going to have 100% recovery. So no paralysis, no lasting, other than having metal in me for the rest of my life. I should reach to 100% of where I was before the accident.
And you attribute that to the care that you received at the hospital?
It's amazing watching them form the trauma team at Henry Mayo. Dr. Michael Shapiro put me back together. You know, he was the orthopedic surgeon that did that. Dr. Malik Mir did the chest tube and the internal bleeding aspects of things. And a big shout out to Dr. Joseph Terrazino, because he played quarterback for me, because a lot of things can slip through the cracks when all the trauma people are focusing on their specialty. But yeah, so Dr. Terrazino was my main physician that kind of oversaw everything as the specialty guys did their thing.
Wow.
But the care at Henry Mayo was great, especially the nurses. God, the nurses were amazing. You know, because as I was in and out of ICU and DOU and, you know, med surge and back to ARU and just bouncing around, the constant was the nurses. I mean, and I knew this because, you know, I've been in the industry with my in-home care company, you know, and I've dealt with the nurses and you know, and they're just amazing. The whole experience, you know, as bad as it could have been, you know, just the people aspect of it and the care that I received, you know, I attribute a lot of it to that.
Tell me how your perspective changed about what you do, or how it was enhanced, let's say.
More enhanced, because as I said earlier, you think you know, but you know, until you've spent a month in the hospital, until you're making that transition on your own, until you feel helpless, until you can't stand up, until you can't do the things that you take for granted, it puts a whole different angle on it.
I hear tell that there was an amazing outpouring of community support for you. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I'll try not to get emotional. It was beyond amazing. It was very humbling, but yeah, I mean, once the word got out there and the people who came to visit and sent me well wishes and flowers and plants and balloons and just the outpouring of support and love from the community, it's pretty amazing.
It's nice to know that you matter.
I've been given a second chance. You know, you hear that, but it's like when it's really that close to home, when you're told you probably shouldn't have survived, and you're like, well, why did I survive? And so, not to get all philosophical or whatever, but I'm obviously got something left to do.
That's our show for today. Thanks for watching. Make sure and watch each and every weekday right here at signalscb.com. For everybody here at The Signal, I'm Alicia Humphreys, and we'll see you tomorrow.